So, my advice to give to other people from minority backgrounds is that are entering into this profession is to be proud of where you came from. It's okay to come from humble beginnings. It's okay to come from privileged beginnings like me. It was humble in the beginning, but then I had privileges. And so why not share that knowledge to other families that don't know the system, that don't know their rights?
Hey there, and welcome to the Speechy Side Up podcast. My name is Benita Litvack, and I am so grateful you're here. I'm an ASHA certified speech language pathologist, author, and augmentative and alternative communication consultant who is obsessed with helping SLPs like you stop reinventing the wheel and connect with other SLPs in the trenches. Have you ever wondered how other SLPs seem to be doing it all with ease? Well, around here, you'll get to hear firsthand how SLPs are really getting things done while keeping evidence based practice and self care in mind. Think of this as a coffee date with your SLP friends. Get ready to be challenged and encouraged while we learn together. Today, I am joined by Karla Garcia, a speech language pathologist who's been in the field for over 5 years. Karla works for a public school system in Maryland. In May 2020, during the pandemic, she took on her first private client. By August 2020, Karla had grown her private practice to 3 clients and launched her own business, Leonia Speech and Language Services LLC. Now she supervises graduate students from universities all over the country and offers private therapy through teletherapy, home visits, and in person sessions. Karla also teaches grad students how to do ethical bilingual assessments and create treatment plans for diverse families. On the personal side, Karla is married to a supportive husband who helps with the paperwork for her practice. They have 3 kids, a second grader, and a set of twin toddlers. Wow.
Mhm.
Join us as we chat with Karla about her journey, her tips and insights on speech language pathology, and how she balances it all. You won't want to miss it. Karla, thank you so much for coming today.
Yes, thank you for inviting me.
So does that cover everything, or is there anything else you'd like to add before we talk about your private practice?
Yeah, that covers about
Perfect.
everything.
So can you share your personal journey as a person who stutters and how that has influenced your approach to stuttering therapy?
Yes, so I don't stutter as much. I do stutter more in one language, so I'm glad this is in English and not in Spanish because I stutter a lot more in Spanish. But yeah, I was a pretty severe stutterer since I could remember. I tend to slow down my speech a lot as well, so that way I can process the words that I want to say, and it helps me have less stuttering moments. With the stuttering journey, I am if there was a lot of bullying for sure. I was bullied not only for my stuttering, but also for my race. I went to a school that was not as diverse as it is now. Now the school is a Title I school, but back then I think it was only like 5% Latinos or something like that. So I was definitely the minority. So I got bullied for my race, my language, because I was an Esau, and on top of that, my stuttering. So, with that being said, with that personal struggle of self acceptance, stuttering therapy in the past was harmful for me because it taught me how to hide my stuttering and also like to mask my disability. So I whenever I started to stutter, I would just shut down. I became a covert stutterer because I was taught that stuttering was bad and you need to have fluent speech. So now that there's this huge wave of verbal diversity and more acceptance of people who stutter and how we're changing the field of you're stuttering, you need to speak more fluently to, oh, you stutter, let's own it and let's share that with everybody and be proud of it and not have it hinder your ability to do things that you really do want to do. I tend to go that route towards more like of the diversity route, and it really helps me in stuttering therapy to connect with the kid. because I feel lonely. I felt lonely. I felt I was the only person in the well, my dad stuttered. He stutters, but I felt like I was the only one in the whole world, in the whole galaxy that stuttered with my dad, and it was just the 2 of us, because I didn't know anyone else who stuttered in my life throughout elementary, middle, and high school, and college. And so with my kids, I'm seeing actually a lot of teenagers now. I have a 14-year-olds, I have a 17-year-old coming in, and I actually have a 29-year-old doctor from Guatemala who also stutters. She's a covert stutterer, and I'm basically teaching them the whole acceptance approach and how let's stutter more freely, let's advertise and everything. And so I've gone through that route. Parents, I was afraid that parents were not gonna accept me, like, oh, you're gonna give therapy to my child, but you stutter. And no, it's been the opposite. "Oh, you stutter? Great. Can we go with you? Because you understand what my child is going through, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to feel about this whole thing." So, I think that has influenced my this stuttering therapy is more of the acceptance. The 14-year-old, I have one 14-year-old, he now wants to be a speech therapist, which is great because he's like, "This is awesome. This is a" he just really loves speech therapy now. And he was a covert well, he is still a covert stutterer, but it's still, it's a lifelong process towards self-acceptance, but he's much more positive about himself, and he really wants to be a speech therapist now to help other people like him who stutter, so I thought that was great. So I think my personal experiences when the parent's like, "Yeah, how do you know how that feels?" All of that has really influenced how I do stuttering therapy and really connect with the parents and the families with them.
I love that. Thank you for being so open and sharing your experience with us and how adopting more of an acceptance approach has been more beneficial. And I love that the families are more willing to work with you because of that experience.
Yes, yes, for
What
sure.
challenges do you face when you opened your private practice part time while working full time elsewhere? How did you overcome them?
Challenges. So the number one challenge was I unexpectedly got pregnant. So I saw my first client in May. I got pregnant in June. Didn't find out there were twins until end of July. And then I just kind of went from 1 to 3 families, and then in August, my husband's like, "Let's just make it happen." So I was like, "Okay." Mind you, the challenges was the surprise pregnancy, and it wasn't just 1 baby, it was 2 babies. So, driving to the homes, my belly got really big really quick, so that was really hard. I was exhausted because I just wanted to sleep all the time. In the summer, school was out, so I only was focusing on the clients. However, when school started back up again, I had to work on Saturdays. So I worked 6 days a week. I still work 6 well, not in the summers, but in the school year, I work 6 days a week. And so that's a challenge is the full time and then doing my private practice the part time. I was very blessed to not have to market as much. It was very my private practice boomed basically through word of mouth, through other speech therapists who know me in the field and they refer their clients to me. And so that's another challenge too, is my limit in seeing my families. So on Saturdays, I see maybe like between 6 to 12 families on a Saturday, but I have a wait list of 40, almost 50 families that are waiting. And people get excited to hear that. That's great, you have a wait list. But for me, especially as a parent, I'm like, these parents are waiting. They're not getting the services that they need right now. If like, "Oh, yeah, I have a 2-year-old and they're not talking," and I'm thinking early intervention, but I can't see them. So, that was a challenge, is trying to provide services for all these families, and I can only refer out so much because they all speak Spanish. So a lot of speech therapists, as we know in our field, I think there's 8% minorities, right, in our field. And out of the eight, I believe 6%, I could be wrong, but like 6% of us are bilingual. So there's not that many of us who are bilingual in Spanish, English. And so I'm grasping at straws here. So then that's when I was like, let me get help. Let me extend to the universities to kind of help this challenge. And so that's when I started having grad students. So that way I can go. So I would have two grads. If I were to have two grad students, I would give them I don't want to say their own caseload, but I would have them like have a set of families and some of the families off the wait list. And initially they would have to see me first, the first 2 weeks. And then after that, I will go between the sessions, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Like I was like a squirrel back and forth, like supervising and everything. That was the only way. So then I was like, there has to be something better than this. So I profited enough myself that my grad students are like, can we work for you? Right. Please do. So now I have 2 clinicians under me, and I have 1 grad student. And the one clinician is C, she has her Cs, so she was a student of mine, she did her CF, and then she got her Cs. And then I have another student who just graduated, she's in her CF right now. And then I have 1 grad student right now from another university in Texas. So there's like an online program. So now I have 2 employees that can grab families from the wait list. So that it's still again, it's still a challenge because 'cause I'm not full-time for me to hire more, but that's how I'm trying to overcome it slowly, if the grad students love the experience and if I'm able to supervise them, because I know that the max is 3, to have, like, a CF and a student under ASHA guidelines, then sure. So I have a seed clinician on board, I have a CF, so hopefully once the CF gets her C, she's still with me, and then I'll be able to hire, another clinician. So that's how I've been slowly overcoming them. I wanna thank my family too. They've been also helping me. So on Saturdays, I go to work and my mother-in-law, my sister-in-law, they would come and they will help my husband with the kids. And my husband, again, does all the paperwork. He's made everything HIPAA compliant. He set up my Gmail, he sets up my clinician's Gmails, he does everything. I just see the family, so I'm very thankful for him, and his family, and my family too. My family comes, and they come help me, and I go see my clients, and so it's literally it takes, like, a big village to help me.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. So really like a big theme here is support and getting help with from
Yes.
other people from your community. Thank you for sharing that. So how did you gain experience in like I know one of your specialties is in supporting Gestalt language processors. So how did you get experience in that? And then what strategies do you recommend for helping GLP learners who code switch or who are bilingual?
Yes. So for GLP learners, I started that journey when one of my original clients wasn't making any progress. He was scripting everything that he heard and that I would say. He would repeat everything that I said. And in my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, this kid's been with me for 3 months and there's been no progress. And I'm freaking out as a private practice owner because, again, I depended and relied on word of mouth. Um, you wanna make the parents happy, you wanna see progress, and if there's no progress, you're like, "We gotta do something else," and so I stumbled upon I went on Instagram and saw a couple of posts from different speech therapists that talked about Gestalt language processors, and I'm like, "Oh, that sounds fancy, okay," and I was skip but it would keep coming up and keep coming up, and I'm like, "Okay, let me figure out what this is." And I was like, "That is my Karen." So, I dove a little bit deeper. I found information on Marge Blanc, and ironically, Amanda Blackwell, she is an SLP located in Guatemala. Her and we've collaborated a lot because I've done it's kind of like CEUs, but in Guatemala for the speech therapist over there, but virtually. And so I reached out to her and I asked her, Amanda, what is this whole GLP situation that I keep seeing? And so she explained me a little bit more. I saw there's like a free course that they have, her and Marsh Falk, and I forgot who the other speech therapist was. And I looked at it and then I was able to grasp up. And then once I grasped some of the concept, I spoke to the mom of my client a little bit about it. I told her I'm gonna be training for it, but just to let you know, you see me look at like do a different route with your child is because of this. I always tell my parents I'm always keeping them in the loop. So she's like, great, yeah, no, do whatever you need to do. And then I went into the NLA website under it's called communication. I forgot what the website is, but it's with March Blanc, and I saw the requirements of like if you want to become a GLP trained SLP, this is what you do. And I did all the steps. I went to Northern Speech Services, got trained there. I'm currently taking the meaningful speech course for AAC users because I have a lot of AAC users now who are GLP kiddos. And so that's how that whole thing came about. Now, with bilingual kids, it gets tricky because we gotta take into consideration the code switch and honor that. So I believe there is a research article on bilingual GLP learners that just came out. I could be wrong, but I think I saw it on the Facebook group. But what I typically do is I there's a language checklist created by Bilingual Speechies on Teacher Pay Teachers. I use that. And then I also honor their code switch as I'm doing the GLP analysis. And because I understand both languages, I'm able to see, oh, okay, this is something common in Spanish and this is common in English. Okay, that's like a stage two because they're like composing those two parts into one. And so what I do is in meaningful speech, she created a handout both in English and in Spanish because I want the parents to know what it is, and I would give the parents the Spanish handout, and I would explain to them, this is how your child processes language. And so they're like, "Oh, okay." And so I would have them come into the sessions. I would have the parents come into the sessions and teach them, like, how to support their GLP learner. Parents only speak in Spanish, so I'm there, the kids, like, grasping the language in Spanish. And then they speak to me in English, or they would do the code switching, and I would tell the parents, so because of this and this, I would use a lot of Legos too to show the parents kind of like what's going on because they're like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm a visual learner. And so I feel like my parents need like a visual of what's happening. So I would do it that way. I would support them in that way. And then I would analyze their language. And then I would see if they're present, if the grammar's present in both, if they're like a stage 4 and beyond. Okay, do we have pronouns in Spanish? Yes, we do. Okay, so let's work on pronouns. Do we have verb conjugation in Spanish? Yes, we do. So let's work on that in English and in Spanish. So I would work it on both in the session. So that's how I would do it with my bilingual kids, including my Amharic, because I have Amharic speaking client and French speaking clients. I will look at their language and their grammar, and then look at the English and our grammar, and then I will see which ones are common in both. So if they're doing it in a stage 4 to 6, I can focus on the grammar that's common in both languages. So when they code switch, grammatically, it will still make sense.
Got it. And those are really helpful strategies. I like the Lego one. I'm going to use that with parents to kind of show them what a stage one looks like. And then, like, when you're mixing and matching, I love it.
Yeah, Legos are like my best friend.
At first, I'm like, "Where's she going with this?" And I was like, "Oh, that's super cool. I will definitely try that. Thank you."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, what has your experience been like as a minority in the field of speech language pathology, and what advice would you give to others from minority backgrounds entering this profession?
My personal experience has been maybe it's because I've been so thankful that I just any negative things that have come up, I just rub it off. And I'm like, well, I'm a speech therapist. That's all that matters. It's been, it's definitely been a humbling experience still. It really makes me sad to see that there's so many families waiting for a bilingual speech therapist. So I wish there was more minorities in our field when so background, I have been rejected over 40 schools, by the way. I don't know if I like well, I just wanna share that because I'm very transparent in my journey. I was an SLPA, and I was always told, "Oh my gosh, you're Hispanic, you're bilingual, you're a gold mine in this field, you're gonna be picked up so quick." 5 years and 40 plus applications of university saying no didn't really make me feel like I was wanted because they were looking at the numbers. It was either my GPA or my GRE. They could care less about what I could bring as a like, I was like, "Well, I have 4 years, 5 years of SLP experience." No, we don't, "Well, okay, I'm bilingual." Nope. If you don't have close to a 4.0, we're not gonna accept you. And I think as a minority in the field, we work with a lot of minority families and we see, I'm first generation Hispanic. So both my parents came as immigrants. And so one came with papers, one did not. And so they had to come, my dad came, he was finishing his medical, he was going to be a doctor in Honduras, and then he left everything for the American dream. And then my mom, she was escaping the war in El Salvador because they were massacring students and teachers, and so she had to cross the border as soon as she could with her siblings, with my aunt and uncle. And my uncle right now, he's a lobbyist in DC. My aunt works with the domestic violence unit in Montgomery County. My mom, she worked in a nursing home. Like we had a lot to contribute to society. And so with that humbling beginning, I didn't have parents that were like that had a higher education, except for my dad, but he didn't really graduate, so I don't count. But, they didn't go past my my mom graduated high school at the age of 21 when she came here, but college, they're like, "You can do college if you want, you don't have to." So, I didn't really put my best effort in college because I was like, "I don't really need to be here." So, it's just like that mentality just didn't my GPA wasn't as high, and so seeing my friends in high school too, who also, came from families that had that same mentality, like, "Oh, you can go to college if you want," and so my parents, they just accepted whatever education I got. And so when I couldn't get into grad school, they're like, "That's fine, don't worry about it." Money too was a struggle as well. My dad, I am one of the very few. I do want to say that I am very blessed that my dad was able to pay my undergrad because he became a realtor. And that is something that's not common in minorities for a parent who came without any education, like, they had to start from scratch to pay off their kids' college. So I'm extremely blessed with that. So when I work with my middle schoolers and I see that they're coming from families that are similar to mine or are families that don't understand the language and everything, I always advocate. I always tell the parents, "You have parental rights and you have this." And they're like, "Well, can we ask you can ask questions during the IEP meeting. You are encouraged to ask questions." And so all of those experiences being in the speech field has helped me advocate for my families. So I think I could bring that to the table as a minority. because I understand their beginnings. Yes, I had privilege, a little bit more than a typical first generation Hispanic, and I'm very blessed with that. And so I want to be able to share what my dad was able to give me, what my mom was able to give me, and really help those other families that are struggling with what do I do with my kid? Can I have an IP meeting and this? So I try to share that knowledge with them in their language too, because they feel comfortable versus me using an interpreter for Spanish. Now, if it's another language, then it's with an interpreter. But they see me and they're like, okay, she is a woman of color. She understands. She's bilingual, not in my language, but she can help me. Like I can understand a little bit more with that. So, my advice to give to other people from minority backgrounds is that are entering into this profession is to be proud of where you came from. It's okay to come from humble beginnings. It's okay to come from privileged beginnings like me, it was humble in the beginning, but then I had privileges. And so why not share that knowledge to other families that don't know the system, that don't know their rights? So I take my role as an American citizen, like, okay, my parents came here as immigrants, and I am the product of an immig of of immigrants, and I'm helping the community. I'm helping our country. So I try to tell my grad students, especially the ones that are the same, first generation or they're minority or they're mixed, show your parents, do them proud. It's okay to share with people your struggles because then the families can relate to you and they can open up to you more and they can ask questions and everything. So I hope that if any minority that comes into our field and they say, "Wow, I'm the only, person of color here," that's fine. We need to grow that. So invite all your other friends who are people of color, who want to become speech therapists. Like my 14-year-old who stutters, he's Hispanic, he's from Colombia, both his parents are they immigrated from Colombia here, and he's like, "Yeah, but," I'm like, "No, no, no, no. Like, we need more Latinos. We need more, people of color because that's who we service the most." So, I always try I'm very pro speech therapist. So, I love my field so much, so I'm always like, welcome everybody, you're neurodivergent, you have ADHD, great, come on in, because then you can tailor to this kid who's bouncing off the wall. Like you understand them and you can manage their attention the way that you would if it was you. Like I just feel like that's just more we need more of that we need more of that in the field to have a good balance and to also have people see the pictures like, oh, okay, I see myself in that group.
Mhm.
That would be my advice.
I love that. Those are great tips for anybody listening to this. Carla, this has been great. Thank you so much. If people want to find and connect with you, where can they go?
Yes, so because I'm super busy, but I do check it a lot, I don't post as much, but I do have an Instagram. It's again, see, I don't even post that much. I
Mhm.
do pull it up. It's Carla Bilingual SLP. Um, Carla underscore bilingual SLP. It was a personal account, but then people started to ask me professional questions. So then I started to kind of change it to more of like a professional account. You can also email me, Carla, well, it's with a K, so carla.garcia@leoniaspeech.com. I'm also on Facebook. There's a lot of Carla Garcias on Facebook, but my maiden name is Escoto, which is Escoto. So if you look for Carla Escoto, I might come up as Carla Garcia. You could connect me with there as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carla.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening. By the way, have you joined the SSU crew yet? By joining, you get access to the free good section on our website, plus podcast updates, special event notifications, and therapy inspiration. You can sign up at bit.ly/join SSU crew, all lowercase, or just find the link in this episode description. Also, don't forget to take a screenshot of this episode so that you can always refer back to it and share it on social media if you really love the topic. Take care and remember to always fill your speechy side cup first before you can pour into others.